Good morning and welcome to Sunday, the 5th of April, the start of our Holy Week. Of course, next week is Easter Sunday, and on the Friday leading up to that, of course, is Good Friday. The theme for today is Let the Festival Begin. Now, first of all, do you have your coat? I've got my coat here, and I'm just going to lie it on the floor. So there it is, it's on the floor. Now, festivals are times when we celebrate. It usually involves eating and drinking and doing that in a special place. So today I'm going to start by having a game. Now, you might like to play this game at home. Here is the game. Write down the names of the people whom you are with and in your home. Of course, if you're in your home alone, you might like to add 2 or 3 other names of people who you would like to be with at the moment. So I'm here with Michael, Petra and Miriam, Miri for short, and I'd actually like to add one name. I'd like to add Seb. He's our son and he's in Sydney at the moment, so I've got 3 names there. Now, from using the letters of these names, I would like you to come up with a place. Sort of like Boggle, so finding some names. Now, I thought, what could I make from the names on my list? I thought of a place, Siberia would be a good place. I could get that out of the names. I thought of Paris. I could get that out of the names. But in the end, I chose Limesheim. That's a place in Germany. And I thought that I'd be interested to see if somebody gets a longer place name out of the names of the people who they're with or who they'd like to be with at the moment. So Limesheim is my place. And then I wanted to think of a food. So using the names, our names and letters from those names, I came up with pasta. Perhaps pasta sounds a bit boring, doesn't it? So I'm going to add chili pasta. It's also using the letters. Now, some of you might think chili has 2 L's. Well, the variant is 1 L. So chili pasta. So that's my place, Limesheim. My food, chili pasta. And the something to drink, well, from the letters of my name, and we are in Germany, so I'm going to put down beer. Yes. So wouldn't that be interesting to be able to spend our time in, have a celebration in Limesheim, drinking beer and eating chili pasta? I wonder what you would come up with your list of names for a great festival place. Perhaps you'd like to pause the video now and have a little think about, play the game and see where you end up with, and I'd love to hear where that might be. Well, the theme today is Let the Festival Begin. Now, there's no doubt about the festival in this particular story. Jesus and his disciples were going to Jerusalem, and it was the time of the Passover feast. So they would be eating the Passover lamb, they would be having flatbread and bitter herbs, and they probably were drinking wine or juice, grape juice. But this particular festival, Let the Festival Begin, this particular festival was shaping up to be a little bit different because Jesus was coming to this festival. Now, of course, Jesus had been to many festivals. He'd been there as a boy. Every year his parents used to take him to the festival. We know that because of Luke chapter 2. And he's been there other times even as an adult in John chapter 7. But by this stage in Jesus' life, because of his miracles and his teaching, Jesus had become very famous. And so there was a really feeling that there was a feeling that Jesus was from God, that he was God's promised special one, indeed that he was Messiah, the anointed one, the person who was going to bring good news for his people. Jesus was understood as a person of hope, so that on this trip to Jerusalem, Jesus was surrounded by crowds. He was the center of their attention and the object of their hope. He encouraged their hope because he rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. Now, this encouraged them because there was an ancient prophecy from Zechariah, Zechariah 9, chapter 9, verse 9. Rejoice, O people of Zion. Shout in triumph, O people of Jerusalem. Look, your king is coming to you. He is righteous and victorious, yet he is humble, riding on a donkey. So the people shouted, they sang, they laid their green branches before the donkey and before Jesus. Even their coats they laid down on the road before him. Now take a little look at your coat on the floor. Would you be happy to walk upon it? Maybe you would because it's in your home and your feet are nice and clean. But if you laid the coat outside on a dirty path, would you let a total stranger walk upon the coat? Somebody who's perhaps already walked on dirty ground? I think you'd think twice about it then. Well, you'd think twice unless you thought the person was extremely special. And if they were extremely special, you'd want their way to be less dirty and less messy, so you might just lay down your coat for that person. And so the crowds before Jesus, laid their coats down because they knew that he was very special. Just how special will come into focus when we remember that it was the Passover festival, and we can appreciate the hope that they placed in Jesus. Remember, the Passover was when the Jewish people remembered that they once had lived in a foreign land. They had once lived as slaves, and at some point God brought them out of that slavery into their own land, out from under cruel tyranny, to live in the freedom of their own and the freedom and peace of their own home. And this is important, for when Jesus entered Jerusalem at this Passover week before Easter, the people of Israel were once again under the control of a cruel tyranny, the tyranny of Rome. They longed for freedom, and so when Jesus rode into Jerusalem, they assumed that he might just be the king to give them that freedom. So Palm Sunday is a day where we remember hope. Jesus coming into Jerusalem, people filled with hope. Now, hope is a good thing, of course. If you have hope, you can look ahead and you can make positive choices. If you have hope, you can put up with hardships. You can even put up with hardships without losing your way, without getting angry and sad. But if you lose hope, then you might just get angry. You might get sad and you become overly anxious. People can sometimes waste their time in foolish pursuits, even though they know that those things are wrong. I was glad during the week to hear that our politicians are trying to give us hope. They are talking in terms of a bridge. One day we will get over this bridge of coronavirus. We will get to the other side. That's a hopeful statement. Our Premier of New South Wales has told us that perhaps this period of time might take 3 months, but at least she's put a period of time on it. This can give us hope. While we have hope, we can accept the hardships with dignity, for we know that there will be an end. There will be a day when I can, perhaps in Limesheim, eat chili pasta and drink beer with Petra, Miri, and Sebastian. Where will you have your little party at the end? So this Easter week, enter it with hope, and do not lose your hope. The first Easter week reminds us that the hope which the people had, of course, the crowds had, was both right and wrong. They had a wrong idea of what Jesus would do for them. They were wrong if he thought that he was just going to deliver them from the tyranny of Rome. But they were right to hope in Jesus. Right to hope that he would deliver them. But he was going to deliver them from something much bigger than the little Rome. He was going to deliver them from the worry of our moral failures, the worry of our sin, the worry of our own death, the worry that God might be unhappy with us because of our faults and failures. Jesus was going to deliver us from that tyranny. He would die for all humanity so that we might have peace with God for all time. They had to adjust their hope to see that Jesus was not just a king in Israel, but he was the Lord of life and death for all people and for all time. They had to learn to roll with Jesus as he led them through the uncertainties of life. We, in this Holy Week, perhaps need to learn to live, to learn to roll with Jesus. Things might not be quite as we expected, but we can know that God is always in control. He was in control when he made the world. He was in control when humanity showed their cruel face and turned away from him. He was in control when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. He was in control through every part of this Easter week ahead, the passion and death of Christ. And he is in control in the uncertainties of life, even the uncertainties of COVID-19 for us. Take your names again, the letters of your name. For us, it was Michael, Petra, Miriam, and Seb. Look again at those letters and see if you can find a word that we might be worth a positive word to encourage us in as we roll with the uncertainties of life. I have chosen care, C-A-R-E. In the uncertainties of this life, perhaps what Jesus would have us was to roll with him and show care to others. I'm going to be interested to see what words have you come up with that we might need to roll in positively as we live in hope with Jesus. May God bless you this week. Amen.